Lovely. So, welcome. The Power of Systems Book Club, week 7. We're going to sort of advance it along a little bit today. So we're going to do our usual check-in. And for that check-in, I would love to hear, if there were any insights from the chapters, but I also want to hear about your past week, any actions taken, any insights gathered, any outcomes created, whether they're outcomes you wanted or not. Um, I would love to hear any and all um, from you guys. And then a bit later on, we're going to do a bit of an exercise. We're going to open up the questionnaire stuff, particularly question 5, and we're going to go deep on that. After this call, we're going to have 8 weeks left together. And I think what would be a very useful thing to do in today's call be to zero in on what it is that you're here for, what it is you want to have happen. Find areas in your life where you can begin to apply systems or become aware of the current systems that are there that are perhaps not having the stuff happen. And the rest of the book club progressively is going to be about making this stuff happen for you, finding the systems and experimenting with the systems that are going to create the outcomes that you want. So we're going to spend some time today zeroing in on that. I think there's also something very powerful at this point in any sort of group, speaking those things out into the group as well. I think there's a lot of power in that. So we'll do that a bit later on. But to begin with, our usual check-in. I'd love to hear what's occurring for you guys. What's happening?
I can start if we want. I've had, I think, a fairly productive week in a few different ways. I think, God, I don't know what it was, last Tuesday or something. Um, I had a call with my mum about some work that I'm doing for her. That was fine, but she kind of kicked me up the ass and like a bunch of other stuff that I kind of need to do, like, and have been needing to do for a while. I was talking about, and so I was like, yeah, fuck it, all right, I'll just do that. Um, so I've kind of tied up a bunch of loose ends and stuff that have been needed to tie up for a while. Sent a bunch of emails, applied for a job and stuff, um, which has been good in terms of the relevance of that to systems. I think I have remembered a system that has always kind of worked for getting stuff done for me, which is get out of the house and do it at a cafe. Um, Sit down at a cafe until it's done, um, or until I like physically can't move anymore. So that's been good. It's been, yeah, fairly productive in that way. I started a new song that I'm working on, which is good, and I feel like it's a little bit more. It's sort of like I remember Chris mentioned this a while ago about kind of like starting from the small and then getting bigger instead of starting from a big mess and getting smaller. And I still kind of think that like both can work if they're done properly. But in this case, I did the former. I kind of I was I was literally just sat on the toilet and was like started singing along a little song idea that I had in my head, and I was like, you know what, let's just make that song. So you can't really control when shit hits you. So I was like just sort of recorded like voice notes of me like singing the pieces of the song that I had in my head, and then kind of branched that out into the beginning and sort of like of a little track and sort of working. It's always I don't know. It's always nice to kind of I think often with like electronic music stuff, it you kind of I have been like starting from this big like cloud of sounds and experimentation, which is nice because it doesn't really require inspiration. You can just sit down and make that stuff. And then sort of trying to hone that in. But it's really nice to have like the inspiration for a song and then to work from that and um, and sort of put stuff on top of it rather than sort of like ambling around and sort of what feels like sort of doing aimlessly wandering around in the fucking darkness until you find something that hits. Um, But yeah, no, I've had a pretty good week. It's been decent.
Hmm. Awesome. On your songwriting stuff, you've talked about I think refining your songwriting processes and particularly like honing in on the different stages of the creation of a song. Um, I'd love to know how that's coming along.
Um, well, I've created a new folder for projects. I do this every like half a year anyway, but I've created a new folder of projects and only adding stuff to that folder at the moment, and that's every project in there is kind of meant to be a reflection of trying that system and playing with it. I still think the issue that I'm having at the moment is I th working out where the beginnings and ends of different phases are, when I should stop doing one thing and go into another, and things like that. In terms of the one that I was doing this week. I mean, I've only put like 3 or 4 hours into it because that's the time that I've had at the computer without kind of be distracted by other things. Um, yeah, in terms of that. I think I actually, to be fair, I think I have been good so far. I've been much better than I have been in the past when it comes to just putting things like it's like putting things on the page without being too critical, being like, okay, like especially like the intro kind of part of it, I'm literally like, okay, well I have this vague idea of like the vibe of the intro is all these kind of mechanicy sounds that sort of gradually coalesce. That would take me ages of like arrangement and stuff to actually get sounding like I want it to. But like I can put stuff down that when I listen to it again, I will know what I was going for. So like in terms of that sort of demoing process, like literally I'm like, okay, I'm making this for me as like a reference so I can listen to what I was doing. I was like, okay, I understand what I wanted here. How am I actually going to make that into something that sounds like good and realized and like actually how I want it to sound, you know? So I think in that way, that is like a part of like maybe that's a phase that I've kind of overlooked and haven't been particularly successful at the past, but like I think that's working quite well now. At least we'll see how it works when the song's done. But and I think that's facilitated in a lot of the ways by stuff that I've talked to you about, Will, before, largely around this book, where it is. I just feel a lot more chill about it. Like I'm kind of just doing it for fun. Like it's a silly track. It's a track called it's a track about AI, and it's called "Fuck the Robot." Um, and it's got a kind of robot voice. I don't know. I think like the last couple of songs I've been making that actually have been going anywhere have both been just sort of pretty silly in their concept. And I think that's quite helpful because it means I don't. There's like I can rein in the part of me which is like, oh yeah, if I do this right, it's gonna be the best song ever because that part of my brain turns into a part of my brain which is then like, ah, if I do this anything other than right, you're gonna waste all this potential of the song. So yeah, I don't know. Starting off with ideas that are fun, but also a little weird and zany and not necessarily fucking like they don't have the weight of possibly being really good to worry about. I don't know.
Right. Wow. I love that. I'm gonna draw out um what you've just shared because this isn't it applies in songwriting, but this there's something in this and a system I can see as well that will apply to whatever you are creating. What I'm hearing there when you said I think that initial phase is something that you've overlooked. Um, I I'm hearing the sketching phase, which in my songwriting is absolutely a phase that I've also massively overlooked and have tended to go straight in for I'm writing this thing, but I'm kind of producing it as I go as well. And I'm thinking about where everything's panned and what's going to be layered up and baritone guitars under this and what synth line and sound and before you know it, getting into it has been created as so much harder. Whereas I think the idea of a sketching phase, and again, as I say, this isn't just about songwriting. The whole idea of a sketching phase is to throw as much up at the wall as possible and see what sticks.
I think as well when you do like what you're saying, what I've done in the past, where you kind of start making a loop or whatever, or start making a part of the song, and then you go really detailed into it because you know exactly how you want it to sound, and so you start making it sound like that. Then when it gets to the point where you have to make other parts of the song, it becomes much harder to sketch because suddenly you want the parts that you're moving on to reflect the rest of what you've done, and you can't just make that out of nowhere. It comes that takes a lot of time and a lot of like plotting to get to the thing, and it's just it kind of takes away that sketchy sort of inspirational sort of rough phase. It makes it much harder if you kind of abandon that. Is one point I find. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. Sketching, and it's fun. It's fun. I was enjoying it. That's how it felt to do it as well. It felt like you just kind of putting the lines down.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Amazing, man. There's something else you pointed to there as well with the like what I don't think you expressly said this, but what I heard was giving ourselves permission to sketch, giving ourselves permission to throw things up at a wall that may loosely resemble what the final product ends up looking like, but also permission to be shit, permission to not be fantastic and not nail it straight off the bat. And it got me thinking, I don't know if anyone here has read The Artist's Way by, I think it's Julia Cameron. She's got a system for this that she like, but effectively the whole book is kind of like a 12-week process that you can go through. And there are two component exercises that she gives. And the whole idea is to really find your artistry and to express as an artist in a fuller way. And one of the two exercises she gives is something that she calls the morning pages, which is a system of every day you sit down and fill three sides of a piece of paper just with writing, psychobabble. It isn't meant to be good. It isn't meant to be coherent. 80% of the time it'll be completely nonsensical, awful writing. You may occasionally have a flow and it'll be incredible, but the whole idea is that it gets you into a space as a, I'm using the word artist, but what I also mean by that is anyone who's creating anything from nothing, which is business, etc., a client, whatever it is, it gets you into a space where you are used to throwing yourself in with no expectation or pressure for it to be anything, for it to be right or wrong or good or bad or anything. It's just showing up to the piece of paper and sketching. So yeah, if anyone is interested, in fact, I'll email it out after the call, and if you're interested, have a look. I think I took photos of the that section of the book. So if anyone wants to read more into that, I'll send that up in a follow-up email. Lyndon, man, thank you. Is there any more that you want to add for now?
No, I reckon that's good. I think I've talked enough. Thank you, though.
Awesome, man. Nice one. Chris.
Um, there's so many fun ways that conversation could go from the behavioral to the creative. Uh, and two things came to mind, though. Um, One is I'm reminded of the producer and screenwriter Brian Grazer, who his practice would be to write his story ideas on an index card, dump it in the box. Didn't matter, good, bad, other, dump it in the box, dump it in the box. Show up to meetings, um, pitching stories. Okay, what do you think of this one? No, okay, I got it. Okay, how about this one? This one, no. How about this one? Not at all precious about it. Like it's all fair game, and then you find the thing that catches. And the other thing that came to mind was Edison's quote about he Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail. I figured out 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb," which I love that too. But what I was going to say regarding the last week in systems, what you just said about um, showing up to the page, showing up to your sequencing software or your manuscript paper, whatever. Over the last week, I've been playing with this in a broader perspective and examining my systems around um, administrative tasks, and it could be anything that in previous months would have caused me to, as the book says, solve for psychology. What I'm noticing is that the time between I need to do X and doing X is getting shorter and shorter because I'm not inserting myself into the process, but or even after, well, even after sending the email, making the appointment, having the conversation, going to the meeting, going to the job, walking away, and was that right? How did it go? Did I do it? Is there anything else I need to consider, or let's be honest, worry about here? You know what? No, no. I'm just gonna my system of worrying about shit. I'm I'm looking to really purge that from my from that system does not work for me. So there's a little mix of things for your consideration. Thanks, Will, and everybody.
It's really cool hearing you talk about worry um, from the perspective of it's a system as opposed to something psychological. So I absolutely love that you're taking this and absolutely running with it. Um, what you've just shared there about um, how do I put this? Yeah, collapsing time between realizing something needs to be done and doing the thing. Um, I'm sure we all know people. Um, for example, Devon, who some of you guys will know, he's got a million things going on, and I've often wondered, I'm like, how does he have the time for all of this stuff? And just from observing these people and Devon as well, like I think one of the things that they do is they collapse time and reserve energy by again depersonalizing to a very great degree everything that they're doing and taking themselves out of the equation. It's amazing when it saves time. I've had moments like that, moments of flow where I can't believe how much I've ticked off in a day. And it's just happening. And I'm not thinking, agonizing over a message. I'm not worrying. I'm like, it's going to be received how it's received. Send it off. And again, really cool to hear you talking about that stuff as a system, as opposed to, say, psychological flaws. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. And uh, P.S. I may have already used the Edison and the Brian Grazer stories before. They come to me a lot, those two, because especially when I'm that whole idea about getting attached to the thing we're creating, whatever it is, um, and thinking that it's got to look the way we conceived it from the beginning. A life has to look in any moment. It has to. This is what I want. It has. If it's not exactly like the way I'm designing it, or I'm planning for it, I can't be happy. Which I lived in that place for a very long time, and in that sense, or be it just working on a track, working on a piece of music. I know what I thought I wanted it to sound like when I started. It sounds like something else entirely, but here we are. Something new got created in the process, and I can say, do I like this or not? And I can be, in this space and having created something new, and allowing for happy accidents and of course the the tweaks we make or the adjustments we make that don't work and point us in a different direction. So,
Yeah.
and I love, Lyndon, I love that you brought up working in a cafe, because one of my big things is working too much in solitude. And I'm at a point where I really need to be connecting in person and getting out more. And one more thing, PPS, knowing when I've come to the end of the list of things that I wanted to set out to do, coming to the end of the list and not filling the rest of the space immediately, not moving on and making a new list and starting that one, but just taking time to empty out a bit. I'm finding is really useful.
Mm. Yeah, man, this has really got me thinking. I'm really sensing that permission is emerging as a theme in today's call. And I wonder what it would be like if we gave ourselves permission to um, treat everything as the sketching phase and not just view it as the beginning phase of a process of refinement. But what if we could have this take the sketching phase energy into all of it? And man, like I'm everything that you've just shared around that in particular really resonates with me. And I'm really confronting this over um, the metal band I've started at the moment, particularly where the vision is so fucking clear. Like I can smell it, man. It smells like a metal gig. I can see it crystal clear, and that system of not letting myself um, fuck around with it and sketch and go like, no, the first show has to be perfect. It's like, well, I think you end up, well, physically, there's a physical reaction to it. You tighten up, but you end up kind of um, damming the river. You block the whole thing. You choke the idea before it's had any chance to come out, as opposed to I'm now thinking, well, as a system, let's go and play a really shit show. Like, let's just book something at the Pipeline in Brighton, tiny fucking room, awful PA. Everything is almost guaranteed to go wrong. And let's just go and do that as a system. And just like, as soon as you've got up and you've kind of embarrassed yourself a bit and whatever, great. What a fantastic place to start. That's sketching. It's like, okay, and how can that continue? So, man, thanks for bringing that up, and that's going to be my thought of the week, I think, is like, could you, what if you treated everything like sketching? Awesome. Is there any more you want to share for now, Chris? Thank you. Sophie.
Hi. So I was just thinking about how obviously last week, for those that weren't there, I had a bit of an existential crisis about but I think I used my playing my piano as an example, clearing my desk, which also, just so that everybody knows, my laptop is currently on said desk that was not clear. So that I've just realized right now is a thing that's happened without me even noticing it. So but I was kind of going on you need a system to clear the system to help the system, and it became a whole systemception pit that I was in that we it kind of ended up being a discussion. I just when I was rereading the chapters today before the call and kind of thinking on like the systems that I'm utilizing, or at least the way that I'm perceiving stuff like this. I kind of had this sudden realization when I read the bit about like the you don't trial and success, like it's trial and error. It's no such you don't think of it as trial and success. And that kind of I think you already mentioned the word, Will, like depersonalization for between you and the system and the tasks at hand. And I just kind of had this sudden like, oh, fuck, of course. Like I think I've been thinking that there's something inherently wrong with the way that I think about the piano or like think about the goal or feel about it without even when I break it down to like, oh, but it's about the desk, it's about this, it's not about that. It's about how I feel about the current system instead of it just being about what is the current system and then what needs changing. And so then I was kind of starting to think to myself, okay, well, how could the current system change? What would it look like if I was actually playing the piano like right now, if I was doing the system correctly? And the first thing that came to my head was, well, you haven't had time. You've been on 3 12-hour shifts in a row and you've had a job interview every single day for a week before that. And then you flew back from Scotland and you fucked your leg up and all of these sort of things start coming up in my head of like, there's been no time to play piano. And I think at first I would have like taken that as a judgment of like, oh, well, it's clearly not high up enough on my priority list, therefore my system is wrong. But actually, quite frankly, all of those things I just mentioned are more important than playing a bit of fucking piano. And so it's okay that I'm busy, and it's okay that my current system is you're not playing the piano. And that's not a bad thing with me. When I'm ready to create a system that works in my day-to-day life, I think that depersonalization and that space from it, and knowing that it's not something wrong with me that means that I'm playing the piano and not playing the piano, will come to me. But right now, it's also equally okay that the system isn't working, because the system is working to make sure that I get a fucking job and that I get paid and that I'm doing all of the really important, time sensitive, pressing stuff in my life instead of doing a silly little wanky tinkle tinkle. Do you know what I mean? Like that, then there needs to be a bit of give and take in this. And actually, that was quite a nice little. I made a bit of peace with myself in that, and I just thought I'd share that as a nice little conclusion from last week's existential crisis. And I think you guys all helped contribute to that, so thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like what I heard in that was um really noticing the current system that's going on, which is, well, it sounds like top priority number one is job, right? Which I'm sure we could all agree makes sense. Like, and it's not getting a job isn't getting, making your morning coffee. It's in the same ballpark as moving, for example. It tends to be an all-encompassing thing at one point. House hunting, moving, changing job hunting, like they're big things. And yeah, like last week you were sort of saying, well, what's the current system? And there's the desk thing. And what I'm hearing this week is it sounds like something's knocked loose enough for you to kind of widen the scope and look at the bigger system that is your entire life, and the ecosystem that is Sophie's world. Go, well, something else is just a lot more important right now and makes a lot more sense to do. It sounds like you've tuned into that. And actually, it also sounds like the systems you've got in place for job hunting going really fucking well. So the proof is in the pudding. It's not that you can't do consistency. It's not that you can't commit to anything, because you're smashing it with the job hunting by the sounds of it. If you've had a different job interview, every day, you're being consistent with it. So awesome. Awesome. I'm really curious. Um, what was it? You mentioned a particular phrase this week. Like what was it that loosened something up for you?
I think it was literally that sentence, the trial and success sentence of kind of, and a few bits about the depersonalizing focus in these chapters that made me go. I think it's just, I know it's all kind of the same stuff that's already been said in previous chapters, but sometimes they need to say it enough times in enough different ways for it to finally like find a little crack in the psyche to just go, oh, okay, that's what that is, you know. And thinking on the discussion that was had last week, and realizing, kind of coming at it from a non-judgmental, pragmatic, like, okay, well, what is the system now and how can I fix the system? And that's kind of that where I've come to that realization of like, oh, that there is no fixing the system right now, and that's okay. That's fine. That's not my fault. That's not something that needs to change within me. That's not something I need to fix in my psyche. That's not something that I need to think really hard about to do. It's time. Time is the system until I'm in a more stable place where I have more time to focus on that as and work out the piano playing, because right now that's just not the priority.
Mm, mm. There's something else you're pointing to here that I'm going to draw out. Um, it's the system of what makes sense right now. And they point to this later in the book, in the chapter where they go, oh, this chapter might as well be called The Power of Now. And I think that they are quite heavily nodding to that book as well, because The Power of Now, and for anyone that is unfamiliar, I really strongly suggest that you have a look at that book. Um, it's pointing to a slowed down, noticing, tuning in space that we all have access to, where, in my opinion, we are able in the present, in that space, to access the best of ourselves, to access the best that we can. And when we tune into that, we can often intuitively know what makes sense right now. Like what is the real priority? And you can use this for I use it for set lists. If I've been learning a show the last day, terrifying show with all kinds of stabs and horrible things, and I've been looking at the list of songs and intuitively going, well, okay, like I like that song and I'm familiar. There's something about it that it makes sense to start with that one. I don't have to go in set order. I'll start there. That's my entry into the system. And we can use it all the way up to, you're in a transition phase in life or you're job hunting and well, yeah, what makes sense right now? So I just wanted to draw that out.
That is really interesting to me that that's what you drew out from that, because I am about halfway through that exact book. And then I've had to take a pause on it because I've had a few major life events and I haven't really had the emotion, like the mental capacity to carry on reading that. But to know that I inadvertently have been kind of practicing that self-awareness and that slowing down already without realizing it from the exact book that you're just mentioning just really made me have a pause and in realizing that actually that book fucking works. The man knows what he's talking about for real.
Oh, that Sophie, that's so awesome. Really, really awesome. And yeah, smashing it. You're doing the work and I can feel it in your energy today. There's a groundedness. There's a groundedness in like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Like this isn't personal at all. It's just like bigger picture, what's going on? Well, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So yeah, awesome. Is there any more that you'd like to add right now?
Not for now. I do have my weekly criticism of the book, but I'll wait my turn for that.
We'll circle back around. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Karen. Oh, Karen, we've got no audio. It does say it's unmuted, so I'm not sure. Would it be in the laptop settings in the audio bit? Awesome. Tracy.
That caught me unawares there a little bit. Um, for me, this week's been quite a bit of reflection because I've been away from home this week and just reflecting on the book and had a chance to delve into it a bit deeper. And it's been really nice because I've had this sort of realization this week that actually I've not been trusting some of the systems I've already got in place. So a bit like the chappies jumping out of the plane with practice, practice, practice. I'm using the system, but I'm not using it to its full capacity. And I had that realization while I was away. And it's fueled me again for really getting back into the system and trusting the system completely and going with the system. And if it's not working, tweak it. So I was thinking, I can do what my business coach is asking me to do, but perhaps I need to make it more fun for me. So I want to get up in the morning and do these things. So I've added 2 more strategies to the one he's given me. So I have that variety. And now I look forward to actually implementing that from tomorrow onwards. But it was the practice bit for me. And also not the what have I done wrong, but what's not working in the system. Why is the system not working? And I've had the chance to reflect on that a little bit. And so that's been really helpful as well for me. And I've come back with like a new fire for refocusing my business and knowing just those 3 strategies. I'm going to go for it and try and get myself some more clients, because I've come to a bit of a quiet time, and I'm going to really, I only got those through partly using the system before. So actually what could happen if I use these 3 strategies and use the full system? And that was like a light bulb going on for me. It was really lovely, about this, trusting the system and looking at what is not working for me. Why don't I like using that system? What is it I don't like about that system? Is there something else I can put in place in that system that will make it more enjoyable? So I came up with these other 2 strategies of things that I love doing. I love talking to people. So why not go through my LinkedIn contacts and just have conversations with them rather than sending them a video and explaining why the video is on there? Just have a conversation with them. And these are all things now that I really want to do. But I don't think if I hadn't looked at the system and noticed what system I had in place, I wouldn't have realised I wasn't doing it justice and not using it completely. So that's been really nice to have that time to reflect just on the particular system that I'm using to attract clients within my business. And if that's what comes out of just looking at attracting clients, what else can I do with this business? There's probably some other systems in there that I could use that and have more potential with. Maybe there are some other systems I'm not using to their full potential in my business as well. So of course my brain starts going, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And then you've got this shiny object syndrome going on. So I do have to rein that in a little bit. But it was a real revelation and a really lovely feeling that actually I could go deeper into the system and trust the system now instead of holding back a little bit. So that's been really lovely this week, actually, just to have that time to really think about how I can use the system and trust the systems and really go with the system rather than half-heartedly using them, put it that way.
No, I love that. I love like what you just pointed to there. That's the sketching vibe. I think if I was going to put a term to it, like what I just saw in you there, just like, well, hang on, like, okay, as soon as this isn't about me and this is about systems and they're everywhere, then there's possibility everywhere. And it's like, well, and I hear you. I hear what you say with the like, um, making decisions, like choosing what gets your time and attention. But that was pure sketching vibes, just like, right, I see all these things. Um, there's something else I'll draw out here before I ask you a question. Um, I've mentioned this in a previous one of these group calls. Um, I think, yeah, your systems have to feel like you. They've got to be easily accessible to the person who's going to be using them. Sometimes someone will share a system, and there are times that I share systems with people. I did it at the start of this call. I went, "Oh, morning pages from the Artist's Way," like share a system, but that may just not rhyme with someone, and that's completely okay. And for anyone to force through a system because it's worked for someone else, it just doesn't work. So they've got to feel like you, and they've got to, even if someone gives you an idea, that could be a really useful jumping off point, and then you tweak and create from there. And then, as you say, like quite quickly, you can look forward to jumping into it in the morning, when it feels like something that you would do in the way that you would do it. Um, my question to you, you mentioned like trusting the system. I think you'd mentioned that there was sort of previously kind of a lack of trust in the system and kind of like a half, 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. Um, could you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's to do with my business coach, because I finally took on a business coach after I've been really badly burnt with another one. And it took me a while to adjust to trusting that business coach. And I did. And he gave me a system which did bring me in clients, don't get me wrong. But I then, for whatever reason, self-sabotaged, didn't use the system completely, and then had no clients again. And it was just that clarity that came to me of, if I'm honest, I wasn't using that system to its full capability. And it was all tied around, I think, trusting somebody else's system to work. I'm a very analytical and evidence-based person. Until I got that first client, I was a bit sort of, oh, is this going to work? And also the method he gave me, the system he gave me, was a real growth thing for me. It wasn't something I naturally do. So I struggled with it for a good month before I felt confident doing it, and came, because when you record a video, you need to come across as confident. You need to know, warm, an expertise in what you're talking about to a certain extent. And I found that really hard because I hadn't done reels, I hadn't done videos. I can do them now, they're great now, but I was really struggling with that. So I was given a system that I tried, and for me, I needed to tweak it. But it's only this week I've thought, why am I not doing this my way? Why am I trying to do it sort of black and white the way he's shown me, when actually I need to be doing it more in a way that suits me, like having conversations and then maybe sending the video then, or sending the video to people I've already met once, rather than just cold sending that out and being a bit, well, is this all right? Is this not all right? So it's all revolved around being given a system, but not having made it my own till now.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, interesting. There's a word coming up for me, or rather two words coming up for me there. Um, Gut instinct as a system. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be the master of this, right? Like I'm very much learning to distinguish critical inner voice from gut instinct, from that thing, from that thought. Like I'm not, sometimes it's clear, sometimes I'm like, which is it? But that just jumped out at me there. And I don't want to say too much. I want to offer that to you, and if it sticks, awesome. If it doesn't, also awesome. But I wonder, you know, sometimes we just have an instinct about something, and it kind of goes beyond intellectual reasoning or logic. It's just this doesn't something in my body is not taking this in. And I saw you light up when you as soon as you started talking about having conversations with people, it's like, there's something that clearly does excite you.
Yes, yeah, and I don't trust my instinct enough, and it's something I'm working on with Jane at the moment, because there are so many times where I could kick myself because the little voice is going da da da, and I'm not listening to it. So I might finish with a client on a course and then not offer the next service after, get off the call and go, oh, she needs more.
Mm.
So that voice isn't loud enough at the moment to trust my instinct, and I'm very aware that is something I need to work on, because I don't trust my instinct enough. And I've had enough life experience, so I should do, but I don't know. I've got to try and make that voice shout louder, I think.
Mm. I'll offer this, and as I say, like I'm learning this stuff as I go. What looks true to me is that these things always, more or less, always boil down to a subtractive process, as opposed to like an additional process. I wonder if it's less about that voice getting louder and more about everything else quietening down. Like what I was pointing to with Sophie and the power of now. It's like it's the calm mind, it's the still mind, it's the lack of, as opposed to, something getting louder to be heard above all the other loudness. It's a subtractive process of like depersonalizing, making it not taking the thoughts as seriously, like quietening all of that down. And I think that gut instinct does have, when I'm able to tune into it, it has a particular feel to it. There is a physical feeling that comes with gut instinct that is generally absent when it's just thought, when it's just head noise. That's like just buzzing here, but gut instinct tends to have kind of an embodied feeling. And again, I think that we access the best of what we have available to us in that very present, very still, quiet and down place.
Thank you, Will. That's great. I'm going to start trying to listen more carefully and quieten things down a bit, I think. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there any more that you'd like to share for now?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Sash.
Karen, did you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, Karen.
You jump on. Honestly, it's okay.
Oh, no, it's not working. Do you remember I used to have this issue in the Crazy Good book club? I used to restart my laptop. I don't know if you've tried that. That might the classic turn it off and on again system. Sash, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So nice to see some familiar faces and new faces. And already there was just so much being said that I was like, oh, I needed this, I needed to hear it. And two, just felt so like relatable. Um, I think for kind of actually very similar to Sophie, what you were kind of going through of kind of being okay that you can prioritize other stuff. And I think after like reading the book, I was like, okay, now I have to fix every system. Like that's my new project. I have to fix everything and make the perfect system for everything I do. And kind of in my mind was like, oh, I could change this and I could change that. And I started to feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of things that of ideas that I had. And it was really cool to kind of experiment with that in my mind. But then I was starting to kind of put myself down by not getting to those answers quick enough or taking action quick enough to build that perfect system or whatever that looks like. And so I've just been making notes as like I've been kind of listening to everybody and um, realizing that across the like last week is that a system that you've built doesn't have to serve you 24/7. Like it may work one day and it may not work the other. And I think I've been for a really long time like all or nothing. As soon as something like I'll put something in place and if it doesn't work the first time for me, it means it doesn't ever work. And I throw it out. And I'm always waiting for that perfect thing. And me and Will, we've been talking loads recently about kind of me wanting to build in some systems around PR and the way that my presence is within my community with clients and the film industry, online and in person. And I put a system in place to slot myself more time on Sundays to dedicate to admin of building my website, being online, and this yesterday was going to be the first day of doing that. But I've actually been working on a post sound project recently, and I came across like a learning curve that opened the doors to. I was almost finished sending the last revision, and then came across something that I thought, oh, if I carry this out, this is going to make this project 50 times better than it originally was going to. Um, so I said to the filmmaker, I said, are you happy for me to have this for just a few extra days? I know that I was going to hand this over to you today. Are you happy to give me a little bit longer because I think I can make this even better? And he said, yeah, happy. Like let's chat next week. And in that process, I was challenging myself because it meant that Sunday now had to be for something else. It was for that project. So my brain was going, oh no, but you haven't followed through with this new system that you've put in place. Therefore, it's all or nothing. It's not going to work. You've failed that kind of thing before you even started. So it's kind of listening to everyone today has kind of opened that up for me of that it doesn't have to be perfect and suit you every single day or every week that you've placed that system in. Um it's breathable. It doesn't have to be fixed.
Oh yes, I fucking love it because fuck this as a system as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh fuck this, I'm going to the pub, and we all we all have that, and that's also okay. We're the creators, refiners, and tweakers, changers, discarders of systems, all of it. Um, and I think we have to be all of that and be very aware and grounded in that we are all of that
Mm.
for us to work the systems, not to become a prisoner in rigidity in our own lives.
Yeah, 100%. I have that. Like, I'll work on a project back to back, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, I can't do this anymore. I just need to go for a drink. And then I'm like, oh, I should be in the studio. I feel really guilty, or I should be working. But then, really, like, if you're, it doesn't have to suit you 24/7 every single day. Like, that in itself is just listening to that instinct of going, you know what, this isn't the best thing for me right now. Let's come back to it, tomorrow. Um, so yeah, it was really interesting to kind of notice that within the last kind of 10-15 minutes whilst everybody was chatting. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, it's we can have a fantastic system in place and an organizational system, a to-do list or something like that. And yet we're humans, not machines. There are going to be days, lack of sleep, exhaustion, you're going through something, hungover, overwhelmed, or whatever it is, where you are having a human experience and that system isn't working. But again, like I love that what makes sense has. Thank you, Sophie, for introducing that theme in today's call. Um, we can always rely on slowing down and tuning in. That system is built in. Like there seems to just be an innate guidance system built into us, instinct, survival instinct, gut instinct, whatever. People have all kinds of terms for it, but it's pretty fucking reliable when we slow down and tune in and go like, this just isn't happening today, or this thing isn't working, and it's not personal, and it's perhaps not even to do with the system. But the great thing about being flexible and Tracy, what you were pointing to, like when everything's a system, everything is possible, right? There's possibility everywhere, and on those days you can always rely on, okay, what do I really need right now? What's really going to work? I'm curious, Sash, what it sounds like you're realizing this stuff, or some things are landing today. Um, it's stuff that you've been looking at recently. What would more what could more flexibility do for you?
Mm. Yeah, I think for me, like moving forward, I would like a guidepost for myself, but not like strict routine of systems. Something that I can fall onto when I need it, but not something that is regimented. Um, I mean, what I do is very like day dependent. It can change any day. And having a bit more flexibility that maybe gives me a set of things to kind of think about and systems to kind of focus on that can be um, amended depending on each day. Like things like even events, creating space to get out and see people. Um, Sometimes I won't hear about an event until that evening, and creating that space to be able to go, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go to the event and meet new people instead of be stuck inside. And I think uh, an existing system that kind of ebbs and flows between two is kind of having that strictness of you have to be working on this one thing constantly, and then going the other end of like getting out there and meeting people and being in the community. And there's I get into those two headspace at the moment. That's like a current system, and would prefer to have that flexibility of
Mm.
them coexisting.
Right, right. So it's okay. So it sounds like you're tuning into areas where you're thinking about things very much as like either or.
Mm.
these left-right extremes kind of thing, as opposed to perhaps more of a both and.
Yeah, 100%. I've realized, so I've been really reflecting on kind of activity, like how I spend, how much I put out there energy wise in the industry, and then noticing what comes back to me. And I've spent probably 4 months just like kind of cooped up in my studio, not really seeing friends, not going out. Maybe then occasionally, like having a quick pint for a few hours, because I got to a point where I was like, I can't be in this room anymore. I need a break. Um, and then I've been quieter over the last couple of weeks, and I've been to London 3 times at events, meeting people, creating relationships with new clients and booking meetings in for next month. And I've managed to get so much done in 2 weeks' time. But if that was spread across maybe the last 4 months, I probably would have actually achieved more and been less tired.
Mm.
um, because now I'm noticing after the last couple of weeks, it's been amazing, but my social battery is definitely feeling it.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. You've joined at the perfect time is my sense. I think this is going to be useful and wicked. What I'll offer, I mean, this is something I remind myself, um, it, progress, not perfection.
Mm.
I think perfectly applies to systems. It's like there's no perfect system because, as you say, it like maybe on a laptop, but even then, laptops break down, right? So machines also don't work, and humans definitely don't work all the time. And so that it's impossible to have such a thing as a perfect system because it's always changing. It flexibility is built into the nature of systems and into our nature as well, and rigidity is, as far as I can see, without being too reductive about it, it it's created by how we think about things.
Mm.
It's a mental prison as opposed to a literal one. It's in our thinking. Um, yeah. Is there any more that you want to add for now, Sash?
Um, no, I think I'm good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Izzy, welcome.
Hello. So I just joined, so I'm in the middle of the book. I didn't read the beginning chapters yet, but from what we had to read for this week, um, I get that, yeah, systems really make life a bit easier. And sometimes we also have like systems in our lives that are not voluntarily chosen. And so like ways of behaving that are coming from trauma, and so that's like self-sabotage. And so it's interesting to reflect on what systems work in our life and what systems don't work in our life also. And I like to think about systems to put in place like a toolkit. So, for example, I'm a health and well-being coach, and I think about having practices or like morning routines or evening routines, or also like the morning pages being like tools that we know that we have when in different type of situations, and that we can rely on those. And I also connect this to discipline and self-discipline, that once we are able to set up systems, practices in our life, then we can always rely on them to for when we get sidetracked. So like, for example, right now this week I'm in Amsterdam for Amsterdam Dance Event, and That's a conference for electronic music. That's my field. And I didn't get to do my regular practices like normally when I'm at home. I train every day between Monday and Friday, and I journal every day. And I noticed that this week I didn't do it every day. And at the same time, I know that there are some practices that are non-negotiables. So, like for example, before I go to bed every night, I do practice Qigong, and that's a way to tell to my body that it's time to wind down. And that was like a must. And as much as I skip sometimes the journaling, the qigong was like always there. And so I like to consider that a system in my life.
I love this because I'm not sure if it's been pointed to in quite the way that you have so far in the book club. Um, the power that systems have to ground us and to give us something to return to. Um, so everything that you were sharing there, I really relate to. I used to find going away for shows quite destabilizing, and it's like, okay, like my routine's gone. This is really horrible. I don't like this. I don't know. And then starting to think about okay, well, say I'm going away for a run of shows, that's kind of a system in itself where I can kind of allow myself to break out of the routine and kind of have, some new experiences and that's okay, kind of the fuck it system. But then coming back, it's so lovely to have something that you can rely on that's like kind of an absolute in your life. You found this thing that's like that just really works for me at this moment in my life. It really resonates and you can plug straight back into it. And the effect it has is like it quickly stabilizes and grounds you back into something. But that's what I heard in what you shared. And yeah, I think that's a really um powerful use of systems or a powerful effect that systems have.
Totally, yes. And so, so first I was thinking systems like for my business, like to track my communication, to track my promotion and sales, etc., admin. But then I think also in other areas of our life, systems can definitely help us.
Amazing. And okay, so it sounds like you're perhaps already seeing a wider scope of potential than what you were initially looking at.
Yes, like I like my initial thought was like, okay, I need to put systems for to streamline my business. And then I'm my business because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a solopreneur, and I'm a system as well. And that includes like daily life to be able to organize everything like cooking and exercising and studying, getting some education. And so it's a matter of like, yeah, having a reflection on what are the different pieces of the puzzle of my life, and and for each part, create some systems and yes, some practices that facilitates and make things flow more easily.
Mm, mm. Awesome. Okay, I'm just gonna find um, one particular chapter very quickly because I heard you mention you've read the chapters, to join for this call. Um, Before you catch up on the previous chapters, there's one in particular that I think you're going to find really useful, like where you are and what I'm hearing. Um, Chapter 17. So don't skip the first step. I would I would recommend before catching up on the rest of the book, have have a particular look at that. Um, Especially if you're entering, you're coming into that space of like, oh right, this isn't just business systems. There's like I heard you say that the system that is my life, like all of these areas, it's actually like, okay, well, I could create systems that make all of it kind of work better. That chapter's all about noticing the systems that are already going on, particularly the ones that we haven't quite consciously gone, oh, that's a system. Didn't know it, but turns out it is, and it's creating this thing that I don't want. So yeah, I think you'll find that particular chapter really useful.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you. Is there any more you want to share for now?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Before I move on to Sophie, quickly, Karen, did you want to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes. We
Way. Well, I don't know why I disappeared because I spoke at the beginning and it worked. Well, I haven't really got that much to say now because everybody said it, so that's cool. We're all on the same page. Um, what I have noticed though is that um, I have to have new systems now because my systems that were working aren't working because my biochemistry has changed, and it means that my ADHD issues, the way they play out is much stronger than they used to. And so I have to adapt. So I've been looking at all elements of my life, and I've noticed that being a bit more playful, and I've been putting things in the diary, but so I'm quite good at that. I've got my exercise sorted, that's all doing as well, so I'm getting there. Um, but I'm not so rigid as I expected that I had to be. I've got a few things that I need to look at any given moment. There's always stuff, isn't there? There's life stuff and business stuff and relationship stuff, and it's always there, and you're just going around them. And sometimes they have to move into other places, but that's fine. I know they've moved, and then I'll just pick up on that somewhere else. And it's a kind of I'm developing different systems, and they're less big and they're less perfectionist. They're and what I'm noticing is that um I'm getting more done, even though I'm tickling. So rather than like, that's it, everything is on hold, I'm doing this and I'm doing it like that, which is what I used to do. I'm now just tickling, doing a bit of that, doing a bit of that, doing a bit of that. It's taken all the overwhelm away, which is a typical thing that I've struggled with. And I'm getting loads done, and it feels easier. And there's a lot less mental stuff going on. There's a lot less should, because I was thinking my life used to work perfectly well, and then it stopped working so well. And and so I've been trying to look, well, why can't I be like I used to be? Well, because I'm not like that now. I've got different challenges now. So, right, okay, I'll just do something different then. And I don't have to. I know that um a system that with someone who hasn't got ADHD might not work for me as well as my systems do. So, yeah, I'm just making them work for me. It's much more fun, it's lighter. There is an element of going with the flow and what feels right, and there's a lot less judgment. So, I think that's but what everyone said things that I was going to say. I think it's quite amazing that, we're just talking about like where are we in the process? And yet every single person that has spoken has said something that I've noticed as well, which is lovely. but that's it.
Mm. Yeah, there's something I'll draw out there as well. And again, back to the theme of permission. And maybe I'm speaking. No, of course, yeah, I'm speaking from my experience with this. So we might all have different ways that we attach. But what I really heard in what you shared there, Karen, was I wrote down let it die. Like something that isn't serving you, and I certainly recognize in myself like a but that worked for me then. I was like, I was like that then, or like a lot of projecting back into the past and going, well, but why isn't it working now? And you just completely said the most sobering thing. It's like, well, you're not the same person. It's like you're literally not. It's like what works for you when you're 19, so absolutely doesn't work at 29. Um, it's a completely different human, completely different perspective, and it's such an energy leak to hold on to these things. Um, and I was just blowing that up in my mind, like the let it die, like just to throw out to the extremes, like how far we could give ourselves permission to let things go that no longer work. Um, I'm in a really big, and you'll hear more about this when we share more about what systems we want to create and what's going on for us. Like I'm ripping up every floorboard at the moment. I've moved house, quit teaching guitar. There's so many things that I'm cutting out and letting go of, and the biggest obstacle in all of it has been an attachment to that past of like, but I used to like teaching, or like I used to really enjoy that thing, or like I used to love wedding gigs. It's like, yeah, but you're not the same person. So thank you for that, Karen. Like you've really served me with that. Um, and yeah, I'm just thinking about that as well. Like in many ways, a career is a system. Our employee, our employer is a system. All of these things are systems. Like some are big, some are small. But yeah, how far are you willing to go to let go of what isn't serving and letting it die? So again, back to the theme of tuning in and noticing, not not projecting into the future of like, well, this is who I should be and how I should be doing things, and not projecting into the past of like, well, this is how I was, or like this worked at one point, but like what's actually real and true now? What is the gut instinct and the present guidance telling you makes sense? That's awesome. Thank you. Is there any more you want to share? Wicked. I am curious actually, quickly, because I heard you say like there's an element of kind of going with the flow, but also you're getting shitloads done. And I want to draw that out and ask you about that because to me that's often looked like a juxtaposition. It's like, right, in order to get more done, I've got to lock in. I've got to get this thing on lockdown and like super focused, like every to-do list, everything, a very kind of rigid place. It's like, yes, that's going to have these things happen. And I've often viewed sort of going with the flow thing as like, oh, that's not that you're not going to get very much done going that way. And yet I know from my experience, like it's really surprising when you get into that space how much you can get done, and that juxtaposition kind of no longer makes sense. And I'd love to ask you sort of what does that look like for you?
So, um, I've got things that I know I want to do, and sometimes I have to do them, and I want them because I have to. And I'm just thinking about an example. So, I'm really good at I can get into a real hyper focus state, but then nothing else gets done, and I forget the world exists, and I'm in the zone, and that isn't really useful. Um, so I haven't got much tolerance for boredom, uh, and for doing the same thing over and over again unless I'm in hyper focus. So I tit about, I tickle, I do a bit there. So, for example, when I'm clearing my parents' flat, I will go into one room and think, I could just do something small in here. I'll do something small in there. All right, bored of that now. I'm going to go into another room, do something small in there. And then I'll go into another room, do something small in there. And then I'll go back in there and do it. So I'm moving, but I'm making it work for my intolerance of boredom. And and also what that's done, which I didn't realize, is it's giving me time to process the bits of things that I want to get rid of. And so I don't have to make that decision. Oh, this is granddad. Should I keep it? It's like, all right, granddad's stuff, that can go over there. Grandma's stuff can go over there. All right, into a new room. Just have a look at this drawer. Take a few bits out. Stick them in the pile to the dump. Drive to the dump. Come back. Let's go to have a look at another room. Go back and, oh, granddad's stuff. Oh, yeah, I've seen that already. No, I don't need that. Right, that can go. But, right, so I don't have the whole I have to do all of it right now. It's it's a funny example, but it's working because it's given me the space to not make a mistake too soon by rushing into getting rid of something.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I've got it in my head that I'm going to get rid of it. So I can let things go peacefully.
Mm.
It's something, it's all about the all or nothing. And I'm not being all or nothing about it and just playing around with, I'm not explaining it very well. I don't know what it is. I just know how it feels.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it seems to be working for me for now.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, words are words, but I can feel it. And it feels very, very similar again to what Sash was sharing and Tracy, what you were sharing. Like working with the system that is you. Like, okay, how do I work? What feels like me? What aligns with me? How would I go about doing something like this? Um, so yeah, I love that. So it's no surprise you're it's working for you. Thank you. Sophie.
This wasn't originally what I was going to say, but I think I just wanted to speak on what Karen's just been talking about. I think the kind of mentioning of ADHD, I noticed a real kind of like joy and like a lightness in the sort of being playful with systems that I think inspired is a strong word, but like I don't know, it was very like inspirational, just kind of see like playing with systems like that from an ADHD perspective, because I think there's such a heaviness that sits with the trauma of being a neurodivergent person in a neurotypical world and always feeling like whatever your systems are wrong because they're not the done thing, and having and spending years of your adult life, especially post-diagnosis, unlearning a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms from the years of not understanding yourself and being undiagnosed and not fitting into that. And so actually I think there's something so freeing about recognizing your ADHD and then being able to have the lightness of like, okay, well, how can I make this work to my advantage? And I know you said you didn't really feel like you explained your example very well, but what I saw in that thing that you were saying about, like your granddad stuff over here, your grandma stuff over here, it was you using your ADHD traits to your advantage to build this system. Because I totally like have that same thing of, you walk into a room and it's like somebody's controlling you. You're in The Sims, someone's controlling you, and they've cancelled your action as you've walked into a room. You've got no idea what you're doing. So like that, but you're using that to your advantage of, okay, well, if I just chuck this here on impulse, I'll come back and figure it out. You go out, you forget it ever existed. You do your thing over there, you come back in, oh, that's the thing, and then you can make a snap decision. Whereas I've also looking around me at my bedroom and all of the piles of stuff that I've been avoiding trying to clear out for that exact reason of just the amount of cognitive pressure and load it takes to try and make so it feels like constant decision making when you're trying to organize something. And so I'm going to be using that. That's a genius system. And yeah, I just wanted to appreciate you on that. Um, that wasn't what I was going to talk about, but I just thought I'd say that I'm aware of time, but I did promise my weekly criticism of the book. So I really liked chapter 19 about where he was talking about his friend who was very self-deprecating, and his system was to be self-deprecating so that everyone would be like, no, bestie, you're amazing, we love you. And then he realized that that wasn't actually fulfilling him, and he realized that he'd rather be liked than so he finally discovered, after we had some uncomfortable talks, that he would rather be liked than respected and trusted. And then there's another quote later on where it says, eventually he adopted a system of serving others and living a life that served and fulfilled him. And at first I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And then I read it again and I thought, hang on a minute. If if he's discovering that he would rather be liked than respected and trusted, and that's him discovering what his current system is, surely that then is him. Surely you could then say that him psychoanalyzing himself and going into the mind paradigm is in itself noticing the first part of the system. So is it the mind paradigm or is it the system? Like, is it noticing the system? And where is the line? And what on earth are we talking about here? And then the second quote I brought out sounds lovely. He adopted a system of serving others and living a life that served and fulfilled him. That's really nice and sunshine and rainbows, but what the fuck does that have to do with him being self-deprecating and how I don't know, I just felt it was very like vague, like a vague sort of solution. It's like obviously this is an example of we've determined what the system was and now this is what the system is. But I feel like there is such a disconnect between he was being self-deprecating, he then psychoanalyzed himself, realized that he was just desperate to be liked, and now he's serving people. I want somebody please to explain what the fuck this means and why this is not just him sitting in the mind paradigm and then you see, I hope I've explained myself well enough. It just baffles me. On the first read, on the first skim through, I was like, nice, good example. The second time, I was like, no, I don't like this. This doesn't work for me. So I just want to see if anybody else had any thoughts on that. Yeah, I'll stop talking now.
Where did it say he psychoanalyzed himself?
Well, I mean, it's just more the like, they had these uncomfortable talks and he discovered that he'd rather be liked than respected and trusted. That is like him psychoanalyzing and realizing like, oh, I'm doing this because it's talking about the why. But then they spent the first like 5 chapters of this book being like, we don't need to know about the why. So why are we talking about the why?
Where does it say it's about the why?
Because he's saying about how he's discovered that he'd rather be liked than respected and trusted. That's all about like how one is perceived and like and that is the why he does the system he does.
It could just equally just be a what. It's like what the goal is. What he looks, he's like, why am I doing? Like, I guess it is kind of a bit why. For my money, this is one of the worst chapters in the book, but but that's just my personal opinion. Um,
I think the vagueness that you're pointing to, the uncomfortable talks. Okay, well, what sort of happened in those talks? And we're not privy to that. So I have no idea who wrote this one. This was Steve. No idea what work was done in those conversations. I'll share. I'm conscious of time, and I'd like Sash to share as well. I'll throw this up and see what sticks. Um, I saw this as a reframe of something that could find its home in the paradigm of mind. I would I'd rather be liked than respected and trusted. Okay, well, that's a character flaw. There's some personal deficiency. Like I see it as like that could easily be personalized and exist as some sort of inherent personal flaw. And um I see this chapter as a process of Steve helping to reframe this in the paradigm of systems. So, okay, you're doing this thing. Okay, cool. Um, let's reframe that as a system as opposed to some psychological flaw. You could have a day trip psychoanalyzing this, and okay, well, it's because no one wanted to be your friend at school and you want people to like you. Or it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be that. It looks to me like it was reframed as let's not go into why you're, um, you know, working people in such a way that gets a compliment out of them. Let's view it as a system and go, well, what would you rather have? Um, the final bit. Yeah, I'll be honest. I found it super rushed at the end when it was, oh right, he's done this thing, and it kind of had a bit of a happily ever after. Chris, great to see you. Thank you. Um, yeah, it had a bit of that feel to it. That's all right. Um, but that's my perspective. It looks like a reframe.
It just, I think to me, because they've spent so long being like, don't talk about the why, talk about the system, to then be like, oh, but we did analyze the why for a hot minute in order to talk about the system. So I think maybe it's just the autism brain being like, but you told me this thing and now you do that thing. And where's the line? It's trying to work out. Obviously, there has to be. So effectively, they're admitting there has to be some psychoanalyzing so you can at least like intellectually understand what it is you're dealing with in
Well,
order to change the system. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah. So what I'll add to that, um, at the start of the book club, um, I remember, I think it was Lyndon, it was something that you shared. Effectively, this is the paradigm of systems and paradigm of mind. It's not an either or. It's what's appropriate and what is it that we're trying to do. Um, so whilst it could be read, and certainly on my first reading of the book, I read it as an either or situation, kind of a this versus this, or like coaching is the better one. That kind of thing. On the second read, I thought, this is an integrated approach based on what's appropriate here, what is required. Is the objective we need to get into action as quickly as possible? Um, or is the objective, that this person requires prolonged, deep work with trauma? And then it's like, well, I'm not going to be giving them this book for that. And I'm not going to be giving anyone anything because I'm not qualified to do that stuff. Does that make sense? It kind of integrated.
I thought it was all about the energy behind the system.
Sorry, how do you mean?
Well, he's saying like he had a system of being self-deprecating and it was all about him. It was his system, it was to make him feel better. And when they realized that that's what the system he had, that he wasn't helping himself or anybody else. And then his system then went external, and that's when he started serving other people because you can't come from when that Alan Watts quote of like, no work or love will flourish out of guilt, fear, or hollowness of heart. So that's how I read it.
I think Lyndon in the chat has pretty much hit the nail on the
Oh,
head with how I'm feeling about it, which is I think it was just the failure to kind of like you said, Will, it kind of rushed the ending. But I think the ending of that story
Mm.
was kind of critical in rounding out the example because there wasn't really an identification of the successful system other than just happily ever after. And so it didn't really land on what like the analysis of the initial system was. And that confused me a lot.
Understood. Understood. Thank you. Guys, I'm very aware. I want to be very respectful of the agreed times with all of you. Um, Sash, well, if anyone needs to go, I completely understand that. Sash, I'd love to hear from you. And then we'll end the call there for today.
Yeah, I think it all did actually just kind of get touched upon, kind of where I was going to jump in. I think it's very interchangeable. It seems that there's 3 points to this. There is the outcome, the belief, and the system in place. And the depending on kind of how you're looking at it, if you're wanting a certain outcome, you may not know why, but the outcome for you doesn't work. You don't really need to know why it doesn't work, but you can practice the system that gets you the outcome that you want, and maybe along the way you then start to learn what that why is. I completely agree with you, Sophie. When I read that part that said, like, though you don't need to know the why, that felt really uncomfortable for me because for a really long time the why has helped me like understand my systems and the way that I can improve them and change them. But I think personally is not to hold on to the why for too long. The why doesn't need to be there throughout the entire process. It's just there to help you in that first identification and noticing it, and then it's not important anymore because you know why. It doesn't need to really be involved. And next is what happens next is the system that you're going to build, the outcome that you're looking for. Personally, for an example, I can use this from my job. Um, so it's my job to close sales, and for a long time, I felt really uncomfortable of asking somebody. I'd gone through all the work of doing the sale and just asking them, "Do you want to use us or not?" Like, and for ages, I was like, oh, I don't really want to ask that question. And my why was because they might judge me for being too direct. If they say no, it's because it's my fault that I've not done my job properly. And actually, I found out that the outcome of that was then wasting my time because I then had to keep communicating, contacting them because I just hadn't asked them a direct question of going, do you want to use us or not? Yes or no. If they say no, cool, I don't have to waste my time with you anymore. Let's move on to the next thing. If it's a yes, great, I've just got a sale and I've earned commission. Amazing. Like that has served me, them, and also my employer within that. The why of it mattered when I identified it because I was focused on the why. But then as soon as you identify the why, it's not important anymore. Does that kind of make sense? I don't know if I've explained that very well. I think we chase the why to be like the answer to kind of like give us that like to be that answer of like as soon as we figure out why, then that means everything's solved. And for sometimes that has helped me, but I think it's the thing that came after that actually solved it, not the why.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. And again, back to like what is appropriate in what situation? Like why is absolutely appropriate in some situations, and particularly in therapeutic situations, I can speak from experience. Um, yeah, sometimes it's great to settle the past. Sometimes it's good to talk to someone about it, which is in and of itself a system. Um, and why um, doesn't always get you what you want or need. It can sometimes, it can explain things, but sometimes it's not, particularly with what this book's dealing with, which as Lyndon put, is it's dealing with frustration, not crisis. It's dealing with things aren't working in my life and I want to make things more workable. I'm frustrated, not mental health crisis. Um, and so if it's more action that is wanted, I think what they're doing is challenging yeah, how important is working out why in that scenario? Does that make sense? I can't tell if Sasha's frozen.
Oh, sorry. I was just listening intently and just like, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think it's yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Um, I think again it depends on like how logical you want to look at it and like statistical or like from a like I guess not like a factual basis, but um yeah, like from an outcome basis of how much gravity you want to put on getting that outcome versus the bigger picture.
Awesome. Let's end it there. But I love this. And yeah, Sophie, I genuinely love that you bring the counterpoint because it's yeah, I think it's needed in every group. I think it stirs up a really great conversation. So thank you. Appreciate that. That's a system in itself. Love it. All right, guys. We didn't get round to the exercise. No worries. Today was very nourishing and great conversations. So as always, go play, do something with this. And yeah, questionnaires. We've got another week. Um, have a look at those, and then we'll deep dive on question number 5 next week, and do a bit of speaking goals out into the group. All right, lots of love. I'll see you all next week.